Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Truth About Success. This is where we interview entrepreneurs, successful people in all walks of life from around the world to find out their truths about success. And what we want to know is, how did they do it? Where did they come from? All those in and outs about that journey to success, because success is not an overnight thing. It's something that takes a while for that to happen. And boy, have we got a great guest for you today. And he's actually one of my mentors. And I just want to share some background information about Greg. So Greg graduated with a degree in finance from the University of St. Thomas in 1992. Over the last 29 years at Preferred Credit, Greg has served in various roles, including collections, operations controller, vice president, chief financial officer, and currently is the president and CEO. During Greg's tenure, listen to this, the company has grown from 25 employees to 250 employees. I mean, that's a 10-time growth there just in employees. And in 2020, during the pandemic, through all the challenges that we saw around the world, their business still did $240 million in new loans. In addition to this, Greg is the chairman of board of directors for Granite Equity, a private equity firm. Greg also volunteers for a local nonprofit organization such as Boys and Girls Clubs and Centra Care Health. In his free time, Greg enjoys spending time with his family, with his wife and 3 children at the rake, as well as fishing, golfing, and skiing. And I know he likes some extreme sports because he's told me he jumped out of a helicopter once and did some snowboard. I don't know how he does that. I mean, that's not my scene, but Greg I think he's a bit of an adrenaline junkie there. In there. So without further ado, let's get our very special guest today, the one and only Mr. Greg Windfeldt. Hi, Greg.
Hello, Ayo. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, no, it's great to have you on here. You were one of the people that I put down that I'd like to interview because your background and your growth really comes from a different walk of life. So let's just jump straight in. So tell us about Greg. Greg as a kid growing up. Give us some background.
Well, actually, I was a very shy kid. I did not talk a whole lot. I was very shy. Didn't really introverted, but I always liked to be doing something. I always had to find something to do. So I was that kid that would ride motorbikes, do adventurous things, and I always wanted to build things. I was always building, whether it be models, whether it be model rockets that I would retrofit into cars, whether it was tracks from the motorbikes. I was just always wanting to build something and be doing something. That was, really my passion and what I always liked to do in my free time outside of school and work and things like that.
So, and one thing that it's funny you should say you were introverted because most people don't realize that they see me today, but I was a shy introvert person. And it just dawned on me that we both shared the same birthday. We're both 10th of August, just a different year. I wish I had your year of.
Yeah, I'm a couple years younger, but not too bad. Not too many.
Not too bad.
You just act like you're a lot younger.
Well, it's all about staying young. I think age is in the mind. Age is in the mind. So, Greg, your background, you were born, you were part of a business. Your father was in business. Your father, Mr. Jim Windfeldt, was my great mentor when I was starting out a business, and he helped me so much, tremendously. But you were brought up in that environment, direct sales, business, financing. How did you feel growing up in that environment?
It was interesting. My father didn't really bring work home very often. So a lot of things we didn't know. We knew he owned his own business. We knew he worked a lot. He traveled quite a bit. But he always made time for us as a family. And, his thing was, work hard, play hard. So I didn't really get to see a lot of the business other than, every year and once in a while he'd have the salespeople over or his managers over and things, and I would get to talk to him or I'd help him with things. Actually, it used to be I would deal poker for them when I was about 12 or 13 years old. It was my job to be the blackjack dealer when they would come over. So I got an early lesson in gambling. I guess maybe that's why I'm a risk taker these days. Is at a young age I was taught how to gamble. So,
Okay.
but I didn't know much about it other than it was an always on deal. My father, in being in direct sales, he took sales calls from people, on evenings and on weekends. I remember sitting around on weekends hanging out, and the phone would ring and it would be somebody trying to close a sale or something. And so you just kind of got used to that. It was just part of your life, being in direct sales.
And so just going back on the blackjack thing, so that explains why you're so good, because I've been with you in the casino a couple of times, and I must admit, I was impressed. You kind of know when to make the move and when not to make the move, and you want a little bit of money. So now I understand that. There's nothing like starting at an early age, is there?
No.
So you were brought up in that environment, and obviously your dad had a business. Like you said, you didn't know. Did you ever see yourself going into the family business?
It never actually crossed my mind. How I ended up in the family business is about the time I was getting ready to graduate from the University of St. Thomas. I was interviewing with different corporate America jobs, and they were entry-level corporate America jobs in accounting and finance. And at the time, Preferred was very small, only about 20, 25 people. And we didn't have anybody in accounting or finance at the company. And so my father asked if I'd join the company. I wanted to go on to get my graduate degree and go on to big corporate America. And he says, well, why don't you come in for 2 years, get some experience, some real hands-on experience, help us with the company's accounting and finance area. And then after that, you can go on and get your graduate degree and do that. And at the time, there wasn't enough to do in finance accounting. And so that's why I did collections, payment processing, operations. All those other roles kind of came because we were so small at the time, there just wasn't a full-time role for it. So I ended up doing a lot of other things in the company. But my plan was to always leave the company. I didn't decide to stay until I think I was about 10 years in and married and had my first child. Is when I kind of said, this is actually pretty good. I think I'll stay and keep doing this.
Well, your dad was very clever. I think that 2 years was a very good. He's a good salesman there. Just try for 2 years. You see what you think. Yep. But working in a family business. And being part of that organization, that's not easy. I mean, that's because you've got, obviously, the staff look at you differently. You have to deal with it. How did you cope with all that?
Well, the one thing in a family business is, especially when you first start out and as you advance, is the assumption is, well, you're in that position because you're a family member and you were given that position. Everything was given to you. And so that's the assumption from a lot of the staff. So you really have to, outwork everybody. I don't want to say you're smarter than everybody, because if you're a good leader, you're always surrounding yourself with people smarter than you. But you have to show people that you are committed, that you are dedicated, and that you're willing to put in the effort, even more so than them many times. And it's kind of interesting. I never really received a promotion. I just kind of started doing additional roles until the only promotion I ever actually received was from CFO to CEO. The other roles I just kind of assumed because I did whatever was needed in the organization at the time. And that's kind of part of being in a family business is you do and you learn what's needed, and you take on the roles that are required to be, to make the organization successful. But you're constantly trying to prove to everybody that you deserve the role you're in. I would say even to this day, I kind of do that I'm constantly trying to prove to the staff, clients, whoever, that I deserve the role and the title that I have.
And Greg, you just touched on two key points there when we talk about, again, the truth about success. And one of them there is you work harder than everybody. I mean, that's what I've seen, as one of the trend I see with really successful people. In whatever role they're in, they go the extra mile. They outwork people. And then the second point you said there, you just do whatever is needed. You just go that extra mile. How important do you think that is when you look at your staff and people in business? How important is that as a success factor?
Well, especially when you're a small business. When you're a small business, you can't afford to have somebody in HR, somebody in IT, somebody in finance, various management roles, and all these things. So you just have to really assess what is needed for the company to be successful. And many times it requires you going back and learning something about that. I knew nothing about IT. And even I'll say, even though I graduated with a finance degree, I went back and I had to learn accounting, and I worked with our accountant quite a bit to really understand accounting. And then in IT, I had to go learn IT and human resource and various other things. And you just did what was needed to make the organization successful.
So you don't limit yourself. I think another point we're trying to get across here is don't just put yourself in one box, because you do need to be able to be flexible and know a lot of other things. So, Greg, when you joined, there was 25 people, like I said, it was a small company. How did you turn a 25 employee company to 250? I mean, my brain just goes like, that's like major.
Well, my predecessor did a very good job of maintaining and growing in a very niche business. My father turned over control of Preferred to his accountant and bookkeeper when he went to run the Kirby Company in 1998. So there was a span in there, and he did a very nice job of kind of making sure that the business was taken care of and financially sound. But there was never this growth aspect to it. We grew, but there was never a focus on growth. And that's something that you have to decide you're going to do. And it's not for everybody. It's a lot of work. To grow, you have to have a vision, and you have to continue to think about that vision. So back 15, 16 years ago, when, it kind of was, we had a little growth, but we were still in some very, just really in the same business. We just growing within that business. I kind of started developing this vision of what we could be through expanding to other markets, expanding to other geographical regions, expanding our technology. And we just started building, and you just build and build. You look at where your deficiencies are as far as your knowledge, your competencies. So really the people that you need to fulfill the vision. And that vision doesn't need to be growth. It could be many, many things. My vision was to be a very diverse, very stable, and a company that had the respect of our clients, our community, and one that I was proud to be a part of. And we went about building that, and it's taken 10 or 15 years so far. We have another 10 years to go to fulfill that vision. But that vision is constantly in my head. When I'm working out in the morning on my bike, that vision kind of comes about, and you make little adjustments. Well, maybe we need to do this. I need to hire this person. We went through a stage where we're in a business that's about data. We needed good technology, good data analysts. Well, we don't have that skill. So we had to go hire a good CTO. Now, fortunately, we were big enough, profitable enough, we could afford those. But that was all part of building those core competencies, people that understand, that have the capability and the competence, and also fit, kind of buy into your vision and the culture that you're trying to create. So
yeah. So Greg, I'm listening to you there, and first thing you said there, which I again totally agree, you made the decision to grow. I think that is, and and I like that situation. It's not that we're pointing any fingers, but sometimes previously the goal of the company was just to maintain. Yep. You see, whatever you focus on in life, you get. If you focus maintenance, if I can just maintain this, I can just stay here. Guess what? That's what you're going to get. But you made that decision. First was to make the decision to grow. And if you focus on growth, you then have to focus on what's your vision. What's your vision? So there's some real clear nuggets there. What's your vision? And it's interesting to hear you're only halfway through the vision. Can you just quickly, just for the audience, PCI, preferred credit, what is preferred credit?
Preferred credit is what's called an indirect consumer lender. And what indirect means is we're not going out getting customers to lend money to. We are using a sales network. We have about 1,000 dealerships, organizations that we work with that sell product between the United States, Canada, and the UK. And then and about 15 to 20 different products that we're financing.
240 million you did in loans last year.
Yep.
Obviously, we had the pandemic, the people thinking lockdown, let's just cut back, let's not do anything. You had a great year, so that tells me if you did 240 million in 1 year, that means you are loaning $1 billion every 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not bad.
So
it's nice little business. It's a nice little business. So that's fantastic. So we're running this massive organization. You've gone there. You've had to learn different things. You've had to upgrade your skill level in different areas to get to where you are. So as a president and CEO, what is your prime responsibility, would you say, in that position?
My primary responsibility at this point in the size of the organization is to ensure that we have the people, the talent, and the resources, and I'm clearing the path for them to be successful. So, and sometimes that means making the tough decisions. And that's really one of the things that CEOs or heads of companies, they don't like to do. So they want to delegate. You can delegate a lot of things. You have to delegate a lot of things to be successful. What you can never delegate are the tough decisions. You can never delegate the heartbeat of the organization. You can never delegate, creating the vision and attracting the high level talent that you need. Those are the things you can't delegate. So, it's really about getting the right people in place that can have the competency, that buy into your vision, and adhere to your culture.
And the reason I asked that question there, and again, this is to help our audience, that look, we know Greg's running a big organization, hundreds of millions of dollars. But if you were just starting out today, you are the president of your company. You are the president of you. And the same principles apply. Listen to this. You got to get the right people around you. You can't do it on your own. You have to get the right people around you. The other thing here, the right talents. So it's not just people, but people who have got talents and the right resources around you. And you've also got to make the hard decision. I know you work with a lot of small businesses and medium-sized and large businesses. It's the same principles, isn't it?
Yep, it is. And whether you're a few person organization or, tens of thousands, you have to be willing to take the responsibility for the organization, for its success, or its failure. And part of that is making the tough decisions. You'll bring different people on, and they were great people for the stage you were in at that time. But what happens is over time, they don't have the competency to get to the next level of where your vision is taking you. Yeah. That is a really, really hard situation because these are your friends, your colleagues. You may have worked with them for 10, 15, 20 years. But your ultimate responsibility is to the the longevity and success of the business, and not necessarily just financial success. It's not about the dollars and cents. It's about you're creating an organization that the collective whole of all the people involved can have opportunity and benefit from, and no one person, including yourself, can be more important than that.
I agree with you. So that's important, because what you're saying there is imagine you have 10 people in your organization and you've got one person who's slowing the whole organization. You can't let that one person spoil the opportunity of the other nine people. And this is where you've got to make the hard decision. And the other key point there is some people will help you get to a certain position, but then they're at the end of their talent. They're at the end of their ability. And then you've got to find somebody else to do it. Now, in business, people might think that's callous, but it's not callous. You've got livelihoods. I know I wake up every day, and one thing I have to remind myself about is how many mortgages do I pay globally that are dependent on me being responsible and accountable and making the right decisions and taking the right actions for the company. And I think once you accept that responsibility, not pressure, don't confuse responsibility with pressure, just accepting that responsibility. Yep. And talking about that, I know one of the things we've talked about there is mentoring, having a mentor, because you've obviously learned some of this from mentors. How important is having a mentor?
I think you need many mentors. So like you, my father, Gene, was my primary mentor. His philosophies and the way he views things really drove my vision and my vision of culture, various things like that. But then you also need other mentors. The individual who runs Granite Equity, who I'm involved in, he's mentored me on a number of things as well. My accountant years ago, when I was starting out, I've gotten into real estate. A friend of my father's who is in real estate, who we've done some investing with, he's mentored me on development. And you have to have, a group, you have to have many mentors, and you'll go through different phases in your career, in your life, where certain mentors will become part of it and you learn from them, but eventually they move on, you move on, or whatever happens. But you always just need to be looking for mentors, because there's always something, you don't know what you don't know, and you need somebody to help show you what you don't know. So we can say, hey, this is all great, but I don't know what I don't know. And a mentor can help you see and understand that there's areas that you don't know, and then you can go about trying to learn about those areas or learn from that mentor. And so I would say it's very important to have mentors, and many of them is what you need.
And I think you don't have to have direct access with that mentor. You can do it from afar as well, don't you?
Yep.
You can do that, yeah. And I've always looked at a mentor. I call it the mirror image. One of the things I use, I says, the mirror never lies. The mirror never lies. The mirror just tells you exactly as it is. If your hair is not right, the mirror is going to tell you exactly. Now, in your mind's eye, you might go, hey, I look great, I look handsome, I look beautiful. But when you look in the mirror, you go like, oh my God, look at what's going on there. Because the mirror never lies. So that mentor helps you become that mirror in your life. But you've got to choose the right type of mentor. Would you agree?
Yes.
How do you choose the right type of mentor? What sort of tips would you give people to choosing the right type of mentor for themselves?
Well, first of all, a mentor has to be on the same moral compass as you. They have to have the same ethical standards, moral standards. They have to somewhat believe in the same things or the same ways. Not everything, You could, if you're politically driven, you might have a mentor from the opposite side of the political spectrum, but they have very valuable skills and information and leadership they can teach you. You may not agree with everything, but at least they have to have the same ethical standards as you. They have to have the same, outlook of the future in life, as you to some degree. And because if you don't have that, they're just going to lead you in the wrong direction. They're going to lead you where you don't want to go. So the first thing is, what are the ethics, and then why, if they know they're mentoring you, are they doing it for the right reasons? I've run into a number of people that, they want to be your coach or your mentor, and but they want to do it for the wrong reasons. And and you don't need those mentors. You need mentors that are giving mentors, mentors that are there to help other people. And then you pass that forward. You pass that on, and you try and mentor somebody. You pay it forward, you could say.
Yeah.
And a mentor shouldn't really expect anything in return except maybe mentoring from you, or a connection with you. So you do have to be careful when you're selecting your mentors. Is what is their motive? If they know they're mentoring you.
You don't need many. I mean, I always said I think you only need at any one time one or two, otherwise you get conflict. But as you said earlier on, as you begin to grow and develop, this mentor might help you get to this position, and then you need another mentor to get you to the next level, because this mentor's got you as far as they can get you. And I know that I've learned so much from you, and Greg is one of the few people, less than a handful of people, that if I just want some clear, honest advice, I know I can pick up the phone, I can go to Greg, I've got this situation, what do you think? And I'm telling you, I'm listening to every single word, because I'm getting wisdom, not just an opinion, but wisdom. I think it's important that you respect your mentor as well. So Greg, you've just said you have about 1,000 businesses you deal with between Canada, the US, and the UK. We've just gone through the great challenge we've had in 2020 with the pandemic. So that has had an impact on businesses. And I'm sure in that process, you've seen some businesses thrive, and you've seen some businesses fail or struggle. What has been the difference you've seen between the ones who've thrived and the ones who've struggled?
Well, the ones who thrived didn't let the pandemic alter their attitude towards the opportunity in front of them. Now, some of them, they just didn't have a choice. It's the way their business model was laid out. But some of them really just could have, it came down to their attitude. Some said, yep, here's this pandemic. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to change the way I do things, but I'm going to be successful, and I'm not going to let this pandemic have an outsized impact. It's going to have an impact. There's no question. It just can't be an outsized impact. So it all comes down to attitude. And the ones that maintained a strong positive attitude about the future and their opportunity did much better. Now, some of them were helped by just natural forces. The water business, water filtration. People were at home. They wanted clean water. They wanted, things like that. Business boomed. We have a mattress seller that sells mattresses as a fundraiser for school organizations. Well, no school organization was going to let them in to do a fundraiser. They got crushed. They tried to figure out and change their model. They're coming back now. There are market forces that were just so strong that either created success or failure. But there was a lot of them in the middle that it really came down to their attitude. What did they look at? My father always had a saying that your attitude will determine your success. If you have an attitude that you can succeed and you can overcome this, you will. If you have an attitude that it's too daunting, it's too tough, and you're going to fail, you will. Whatever your attitude is will generally determine where you go. If you think you're going to fail, you're going to fail. If you think you're going to succeed, you're going to succeed. Maybe harder to succeed in certain times, but you will succeed. And that's really what I saw. Even even amongst somebody selling the same product, somebody with a good attitude, they got knocked down, they adjusted, they got back up, they're back to where they were. Others got knocked down, their attitude, it's so terrible, it's awful, da 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 da. This is I can't do this, I can't do that. They haven't come back yet. Not that they won't.
So Greg,
they haven't yet.
Greg, I mean, for somebody just listening to this podcast now, and it's so simple, but I think you could miss the point here. What we're saying is the difference between the winners and the losers. I hate to use the word losers. The people who didn't do so good is attitude. Your attitude determines your attitude. So if your attitude is so important, what are you doing to protect your attitude? What are you doing to focus yourself every day? When you wake up every morning, life is attacking you. What are you doing to center yourself every day so you can take on the world and you can fight the world? What are you doing to really protect that attitude? Because that's what you're saying, Greg, attitude, that attitude. I mean, this is feedback from a successful businessman running a, $100 million company. Think about it, who's got access to 1,000 businesses. And the key point here is the ones who did well just had a better attitude. They looked at it, they found solutions to the problems, and they focused on the solutions to the problems. And the ones who didn't do so well focused on the problem. Now, Albert Einstein said, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. That's been one of my focuses. If I see a challenge, you go this, because in businesses, Greg, there's always a challenge. There's always a challenge, isn't there?
And I think you hit it. That's exactly right. How you get through that is you focus on the problem to come up with a solution, then just dwell on the problem. So the difference between people that break through and find success during challenges times are ones that contemplated the problem, took risks to try new things, to change the way they did things, to overcome the problem. The ones that didn't just kept dwelling on the problem.
Just kept dwelling on them. And so just moving this on a little bit, you're the chairman of board of directors for Granite Equity. If you don't mind me asking, what's Granite Equity? What does that mean, chairman of the board?
So, chairman of the board is, I'm the head of the oversight or the governance of this organization, and then they have management. So as a board, we oversee, in this case, Granite Equity is a private investment company. And then we have managers that then manage these investments. So what Granite Equity does, and it's kind of a neat story, is it was 12 families from the area that I live in, generally business owners, successful people. And about 19 years ago, we saw small companies being bought by larger companies, moving them out. Now they're gone, the employees are unemployed, the jobs are gone. So we said, let's pool our money and let's start buying companies in the area so we keep them here as founders retire. So we started with about $15 million, raised a little bit more to 20-some million dollars. Have a very talented gentleman that manages that and finds investments and make sure the companies are running. We now have 9 companies that we own as Granite Equity, and we're worth about $800 million. And so really it's taking a lot of the things that we're talking about today and expanding that to other businesses, culture, people, talent. That's what Granite does, is they focus on that and instill that into companies we buy. And so as chairman of the board, I'm just there to offer oversight and look after to make sure that the management is doing right by the 300 investors or so that we have now.
So again, Greg, I love what you do there, because what you took was you saw people buying up these small companies, really breaking them up, getting rid of people, and you look for those companies now and you take them and you turn them into a struggling company, into a successful company. I mean, that's great. That's again about what I believe our responsibility in being successful is to go back and help more people successful. That's what we're doing here. We're giving you access to talented people who are successful. They're giving you these nuggets. It's free. We're not charging you anything. There's no charge here. We just want to give back. Don't just listen to this information and don't take action on it. And just to move on to the next point here, Greg, the career growth cycle, because you've seen this. This is something that I know I learned from Gene many years ago, and you've taken it to the next level. Can you explain just quickly the career growth cycle? This is the cycle that everybody goes through in their career.
So the career growth cycle is a basic human, it's just understanding people and who we are and how we operate. And what it means is when we get into something new and we're learning and we're seeing some success, we're very enthusiastic and we're really going at it and putting our all towards something. But as that part of our job or our careers starts to plateau and we're doing the same things over and over, your mind starts to wander, your vision starts to fragment. And so what the career growth cycle says is you need to find renewal. And if you don't find renewal, you'll go into decline. And once you go into decline, you either have to get out of the business, get out of the career, or you have to find a way to renew yourself into something that excites you and engages you. And it's really about engagement and staying engaged. So, for example, even myself, the other thing, to fulfill a vision, it takes a lot of time, and it takes building and building and building and getting the right people and doing the right things. Well, even in my own career, as I've been CEO now for 9 years, is you kind of got to wait for the organization to catch up with your vision. So what I've done with my career growth cycle is I've gotten involved in Granite Equity and become the chairman of the board of that. I'm involved in a real estate firm, and now we're doing real estate development. So those are my other areas of engagement. Not that I'd lose focus of my primary role at PCI, because that is the driver, but I needed something to help get me engaged. And then I think of other things and I come back and I bring those to PCI. Because if you just keep doing the same thing over, everyone is going to lose interest and disengage. And as a leader, once you're disengaged, you've just started the path to decline. And that may lead to failure. It doesn't always lead to failure. You can plateau out and manage through it, and it may provide you with an income that you're comfortable with and you're content with. But if you're going to continue to be successful, you have to keep upping your game and finding other ways to engage. And and that might just be setting new goals. In your own business. Hey, I want to get to here. I want to get to here. I want to get to here. Those goals help, take you to the next level of your career growth cycle. And a lot of that requires learning. Most times to jump from one level of career growth to the next requires digging deep and learning new skills, new capabilities, new things yourself and for your organization.
Reinventing yourself. You've got to reinvent yourself. Because Greg, because I've seen this in my career. Everybody's great when it's brand new and it's good. You get all excited and then you get to the point where business is rocking and rolling. You just said it. That's what happened to Preferred. We were just maintaining. And if you're not careful, if you just maintain, you actually go backwards.
Yep.
You don't grow. So to keep that career growth cycle going up, you've got to reinvent yourself, find something new that you're passionate about, excited about, to go out there and grow. So we're talking about you're in the finance world, and part of building your wealth is about managing your finances. What tips and advice would you give to people about building wealth and managing their finances? No, that's a big question.
First, it's about discipline and understanding that to build wealth, there's risk. And you have to figure out how to assess risk. Because the person that's bringing you investment, if they're looking for the funds, they're not going to always tell you all the risks. And so you have to be able to spot those risks yourself. And, once you become successful, you're going to have a lot of people coming your way with great investment advice and ideas and places for you to invest in. 95% of them are bogus. It was some idea somebody had, and they completely exaggerated it, and they're going to take your money and they're going to walk away with it. So you have to understand what they're telling you. How can I validate that? And then a lot of it is just, what is your primary economic driver? If you're a business owner, that is generally your primary economic driver. You have to maintain focus on that, and and if you're not maintaining focus, you better have somebody that is as skilled or better than you that maintains focus on it. So a lot of the small businesses that I work with, a lot of times, part of their career growth cycle is they get to a certain point, they start into stagnation, and then this investment opportunity comes up, and they get focused on that, and they forget what's got them there, what's made them the money. And so, my suggestion is usually try and find the next level in your own business, because you already know how to make money there, and find vehicles that you can place your money where it's safe, gets a good return, and you can move on and you don't have to worry about it. Once you get to a point where you have the people around you to run the primary economic driver, then you can start dabbling in these other things. But risk should all be, in correlation to how much you have already set aside. If you're already set and you have enough to maintain your lifestyle over a long period, well, you can take more risk and you can do different things and do that. But if you're not there yet, you shouldn't be doing it. So it's really about this discipline, not only with your money, but with your time and your focus and your mind share is more important, because I've seen so many people chase this, get rich scheme, scheme and can't fail scheme, and they forget about what got them there, and then that doesn't work out, and now their primary economic driver is failing as well, and now they're in a real difficult situation.
Greg, just explain your primary economic driver. What do you mean by that?
Your primary economic driver is the business that made you the money that now you're wanting to invest. So for us, it's a lot of our small business, the sellers that we work with, it's the sales of those products. When they sell those products, they make an income, then they can convert that income into an investment. But if they take their eye off that income is going to decline. And now they don't have the income, they don't have the savings to support them, and the investment they put it in maybe wasn't as good as they thought. And the other little tidbit is, if it's too good to be true, when somebody comes to you with investments, if it's too good to be true, it is. There is no get rich. I mean, yeah, there's things out there. Somebody invented something and became a billionaire in a few years, but there's very few of those.
Very few. You're so right, Greg. I've seen in my career, I've seen so many people more talented than me build a business, grow it, make all this money, and then they take all the money out of the business and they go put it into something else that they know nothing about, because you're an expert in this business. That's why you're making the money. You become good at it. you become really good at it. You're making all the money in this business. And you're going, you know what? I'm going to take my cash out of this and go into a business or put my money into something I know nothing about. And then they lose it all. Not only do they lose the money, but because they've now taken their focus off the business they're in, they've now got focused on this, they lose this business as well, and they lose both. Yep. You've seen that happen so
many times.
So many times. So great advice there from Greg. And it's important that you really just get clarity on, I call it the golden goose scenario.
Yep.
The golden goose lays the golden eggs. You don't kill the golden goose, because once you kill the golden goose, there's no more golden eggs. So you got to look after the golden goose, which is the business you have now that's working, that's making the money, doing everything. You look after the golden goose. You take one of the eggs and maybe you go do a little bit over here, but you don't kill the goose. You don't take all the eggs and go throw them into another basket. Yep. So Greg, as we bring this to a close, you've obviously said you reinvented yourself. What other advice could you give to our audience on building wealth and being successful?
I think, really continuous learning. You always need to be learning from mentors, from books, from podcasts. But you also have to be careful. There's so much out there now, and there's a lot of it that isn't very helpful. But you constantly have to be learning. So again, look at your vision. Where do you want to go? What are you wanting to do? And how do I learn more about that? How do I get deeper, stronger understanding of those things that I'm trying to accomplish? And you have to be patient. These things take time. To be successful takes time. It takes a lifetime. Very few people can be successful, whatever that is, in a short amount of time. The other thing is, money is not the object of success. Success, it comes to achieving what you set out to achieve. It may be financial, but usually that's not a strong enough driver to success. It has to be a deeper, I know you've written a book and talk about your why factor. It's why are you doing it? If it's money, what is it? It's really more about what that money provides versus the money itself. So don't do things for money. No. Do things because you're helping other people. You're giving other people opportunity. You're doing it to expand your influence as far as the number of people you can help. And you know what? It will come back to you, and the income will come back to you. The wealth will come back to you if you do it in an honest way.
I mean, you're so right, Greg, that, I unconsciously did this, but then I learned as I went along is that when you focus on money, you make bad decisions. Yep. Because, money or profit to me is a sign of an efficiently run business. It's just a bit of a scorecard. If you're doing things great, you should be making money. If you're not making money, then something's wrong with what you're doing. Yep. And if you add value and give value, you get the money. So you never focus on the money. You focus on adding value. Focus on being excellent at what you do and giving great value. And you get the money, you get the success. And then when you get the money and the success, listen to what Greg is saying. Don't go spend it all and don't go give it to anything. I wouldn't even buy a brand new car for the first, so many years. I think I was in business. Let me see now. Because I see people, they got a big house. You've seen this, Greg. They bought they make a little bit of success. You go buy a big house, car, and all. And I go, I used to be, how are they doing it? And then I realized later on when the receivers were coming in, they were just spending out of their comfort zone. This is one good day doesn't make a good week. One good week doesn't make a good month. One good month doesn't make a good year. And one good year doesn't make a good decade. If you want to be truly successful, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, you need to at least look at a decade. It's 10 years. You've got to set your stall out for 10 years. Would you agree with that, Greg?
100%. And I would say it's longer. If you go back to the vision, your vision is decades long, and it's constantly working on that vision, and that's how you reach that success.
Well, Greg, we've had some great information today. Any other tips for success you'd like to share with us?
I could go on for hours, but I think this is a very good representation and gets people something to think about. And so I think we're good for now. Okay,
great. Well, look, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on The Truth About Success. And this is what it is truly the truth about success. The question is, what are you going to do with this information? Are you going to be a spectator, or are you going to take this, empower yourself so you can go and be successful, so you too can come back one day and tell your story? We're not selling courses. We're not doing this. This is us trying to give back to it. So if you like this information, share it, subscribe to our channel. So we've got so much more information we're going to share with you from all different walks of life. And we've been blessed today to have the one and only Mr. Greg Windfeldt giving us some nuggets. How often do you get it? And just think about this, because I don't take this. Greg and I were friends. We go back a long way, and we can tell you some real fun stories about some, but I don't take the information I get from Greg lightly. I've always said, if you're going to get information and advice, get it from qualified sources. Most people fail because they listen and take advice from unqualified sources. Get it from qualified sources. You've listened to the CEO of a company that's turning over $200-300 million a year. Think about that. You've had access to that person. They've given you some nuggets. My question is, what are you going to do with the nuggets? What are you going to do? Are you just going to look at it and go, this was a great podcast and that was great information? Or are you going to make some decisions? You go, you know what? I'm going to use this. I've got some tips here. Get a pen and paper. Write down your key points from the whole podcast. Take it in sections, revisit it, and go improve yourself and make sure you get a better version of you. You were born to win. You were born to succeed. Success is not mysterious. It's not a gift. It's something you work your socks off and you earn it. And you can do it by following the principles of successful people. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for being on the call. Stay well, stay healthy, stay focused, and we hope to see you again on another podcast somewhere near in the future. Thank you, Greg.